So much for staying with us. Let's welcome our guest who's joining us virtually from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Sly Ezeokenwa is the national chairman of All Progressives Grants Alliance, APGA. Thank you so much, Sly, for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Good morning, our listening audience.
Good morning, and glad to have you again. Okay, let's start from this clip. Let's take a listen to this clip. APC National Secretary Jibola Basiru, alongside the chairman of the party, marking the commencement of e-registration for members of the party. Before now, when the party did manual registration, we were told that they have 45 million registered members. But during the last election, presidential election, only 8 million of them voted for their candidate, Bola Tinubu. And so, according to the national secretary of the party, this highlights the fact that the said 45 million members of APC is a ruse, and that explains why they have instituted an electronic digital registration that will have fingerprints and biometrics to replace the manual. Let's take a listen.
Of our swearing in August 3rd, 2023, the national chairman of our party, in giving address accepting to serve the party, exposed a very important lies in our party. And that was the claim that our party had a registered member of 45 million. If we have registered members of 45 million, how come we went to a poll and got a vote of less than 10 million? So in line, we made mistake because register of member of our party was seen as tools for fighting causes that we don't know. Weaponization of party register led to corruption of the party register.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's get your response to this, Chairman Ezeokenwa.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the issue of data, accurate data, if I may use that word, is not something that is peculiar only to political parties. Data is essential in every facet of life, be it in government institutions, be it in educational institutions, be it in health institutions. In every facet of life, data is key. And just like I always, make allusion to the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo, who will always say that if you can't measure it, you can't improve on it. So data is key. And it is good that the All Progressive Congress, being the ruling party at the center, has decided to take a cue from what we started in All Progressive Grand Alliance, because I have to make that point. Sometime last year, upon coming into office, part of my agenda for revolutionizing APGA as a political party is that we did say that we are going to leverage on technology in advancing the cause of our political party. And we did announce that we are going to be the first political party to go fully digital in terms of registration of members, in terms of capturing the data of members, in terms of capturing the biometrics of members. And, we've been engaging with so many service providers, it's been back and forth, trying as much as possible to sort out all these issues. And eventually, I believe, my brother Mechi, you must have seen it all over the news. We kickstarted the digital registration process on the 1st of June, 2024, which was just Saturday, when we registered the national leader of APGA, Professor Charles Tukuma Soludo, CFR, became the first member of the party that was duly registered, using the state-of-the-art technology. And so it is something that I'm very familiar with, in terms of the various discussions that we've had in trying as much as possible to improve and the membership database of the party. So I'm not surprised seeing the All Progressive Congress taking a clue from what APGA started, because I have to make that point. The point he's trying to make is, for me, it's not something that is unfamiliar. You see in so many cases, when he talked about corruption, and I am very happy. Of course, I know Senator Basiru, is a very sound legal practitioner. So there are so many issues we've had to manage with, especially when it comes to issues about party primaries or nomination processes of the party's candidates. There are so many times, for example, a party like the APC that normally adopts the direct mode of primaries,
And
so
a direct mode where every party member is required to vote to choose candidates.
Is required to vote, exactly. And then you see outrageous numbers. In 2021 in Anambra State, where I come from, the candidate of the party there, in 2021, Senator Andioba, was said to have won the primaries by about 500 and something thousand votes of the members. And we asked, where are the members? Where are the 500 and something thousand members of APC in Anambra
And did he make up to 500,000 during the main election?
He didn't make up to 100,000. He didn't even make up to 100,000 votes. And mind you, just like the national secretary of APC was trying to, state, even the 8 million plus that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu secured during the election comprises, I can tell you, of over 70% or probably 60% of persons who are not members of APC. So if you even talk about members of the political party in terms of registered members actually came out to vote, it may be just about 20% of the people that eventually voted at that election. So, and that tells you that most of the data most political parties, or the database of its members that most political parties parade, are unreliable. And so when you adopt such a digitized form of membership registration that captures members' database, including their biometrics, then you eliminate multiple registration.
Okay, now, is this what we should advocate, that INEC, as the regulator and supervisor of political parties, must insist that every political party, like you mentioned, APGA leading the race there, must digitize its membership register rather than the normal regular one?
I think I would definitely agree with that. But then, just like every other facet of life, it comes with its own shortcomings. It comes with its own impediments. The number one impediment of such a digitized membership database is the cost. And so, when you talk about the cost, I can tell you that there are some political parties that can't afford it. I'm not in any way trying to whittle down the efficacy of such tool for registration of members of a political party. If you recall, in a bid to improve on its role as the regulator of political parties in Nigeria, INEC sponsored and had introduced in the Electoral Act, Section 77, which mandates political parties, before the conduct of its primaries or nomination exercise for the nomination of its candidates, or before it conducts even congresses to elect its officer, that it ought to submit its members' register to the commission at least 7 days before the exercise. Now, we saw during the last general election and then the post-election cases that came out, so many persons challenged the inability of some political parties to, or the inability of some political parties to adhere to that directive as contained in Section 77, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act. But the point I'm making is that because, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the law is concerned, you have to belong to a political party before that political party can actually sponsor you as a candidate to run for any election. And so the fact that there are certain things, or INEC as a commission, or even a political party, must be sure the membership status of any person who probably is trying to run for an elective office on the platform of the party, or to get nominated at the platform of the party, or to even contest for any office in terms of the officers of the party at all levels. And so if INEC can actually, have such a bill sponsored to amend the Electoral Act to say, or the Constitution as the case may be, to say that because data is key, and it will equally enable the commission plan especially with respect to monitoring of the activities of political parties. Because let's take, for example, a political party decides to, adopt the direct mode of primaries, and they come to the commission and submit the register of its members. And that register, it's highly unreliable. You see loads and loads and loads of persons. You see a register and you see a ward probably having about 5,000 registered members. Meanwhile, if you go to the voters register for that particular ward, if you bring together an amalgamation or, all the registered voters in respect of all the polling units in that particular ward, you may find out that that particular ward or that registration area does not even have up to probably 5 or 10,000 registered voters. Meanwhile, the political party has proliferated its register in such a way that you're seeing massive or humongous numbers that are not even in existence. And so when you have a reliable data, that's why when I stated earlier on, I said that data is key. And not just data, it must be data that is reliable. It will help the commission with its planning. It will help the commission with its role in monitoring the activities of political parties. So data is key. And I think, for one, will urge the commission to look into that particular issue, if it is possible, that the commission can mandate political parties to have, data that is key and that is reliable in terms of its planning and in terms of its activities. So I will advocate, I will urge the commission to ensure that political parties toe that line in digitizing its membership database, subject to the cost.
One may argue if we have a digital voter register, the political parties should as well also have a digital membership register. Let's see how INEC will respond to this proposal.
Yes.
Okay, going into other issues now. 1 year of the Tinubu administration, we've seen the APC retaining power since it snatched it from the PDP in 2015. Yes. Let's leave the APC now and look at the other parties, including yours. How will you rate your performances as opposition parties in opposing the government and in coming up with alternatives, policies, and programs?
I've always stated, without any form of equivocation, that I adopt a different opposition model. In this part of the world, opposition is seen as, if I may use the word, witchcraft, in terms of the fact that once you're a member of an opposition party, your duty is to just antagonize the government. I do not believe in that, and I do not subscribe to that. What it does is that it makes other political parties that are not the ruling political party become perennial critics of the government in power. Now, for me, as a national chairman of the party, and being the person that is leading the foremost progressive party in Nigeria, I want to see an opposition that is constructive. I want to see an opposition that is interested in the welfare of Nigerians. Because as far as we are concerned in APGA, the welfare of Nigerians is paramount. And so what we do is that as much as possible, when we see areas where the ruling government or the government of the day, of course being controlled by the All Progressive Congress, where we see areas that they are lacking, we try as much as possible to suggest possible means. Now, I've taken time to study the Chinese model, and then read so many books on, the Communist Party in China, and then the activities and whether they have opposition parties, because most people don't even know that there are opposition parties in China. What they will tell you is that for them, China is paramount. So everybody, be you a member of the ruling party or a member of the opposition party, the most important thing is that they are all Chinese. And the interest of China as a nation state is the most important thing that anybody, whether you're in the ruling party or you're in the opposition, must consider. And in doing that, while you're trying as much as possible to offer the citizens of the country why your political party should be trusted with the affairs of the country, but we must realize equally at the same time that we are not. And then when we probably engage in the pull him down syndrome or pull down the ruling party syndrome, the the bulk of the brunt will be borne by ordinary Nigerians. And that's not our agenda. We have a social agenda as a political party that believes as much as possible we leverage on the masses. And then we say that we're not leaving anyone behind. That is the motto of our political party.
So are you saying that by design, opposition parties are supposed to check and balance the government? Is it the style of doing this that you differ?
I think I agree with that.
The style and approach, is that where you differ?
Yes. Exactly. The approach. Because, you see, political parties, it's designed under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The only means through which you can attain power, you can attain political power, is by sponsorship by a political party. That is given. Now, the next question is, if there is an election, it is left for the electorate, citizens of the country, to decide who their leaders are or who their leaders will be. And then when they make that decision and the person is sworn in, the person is not the president of the ruling party. He becomes the president of the entire nation, including the president of the opposition political parties. So if the government of the day is performing very, very well, it endures for the benefit of Nigerians, including myself. If the government of the day is not doing well, it endures for the benefit of, it endures to the detriment of everybody in the country, including myself. And so the question is, so-and-so political party is still in power. Why so-and-so political party is a ruling party and is in occupation, the highest political office in the country? Now, within that interregnum, between the election and the ascension to power of the party in power and the next election, do we just become perennial critics or probably launch all manner of attacks, barrage of attacks and propaganda against the government of the day to the detriment of Nigerians? That is the key question. And so while you are trying as much as possible to suggest ways that the government can perform better, you are equally trying to prepare your own political party to take over if the government peradventure decides not to heed meaningful advice. It is very, very key, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I understand your position, but there is this other thinking, the alternative thinking that perhaps starting with the present APC government, that there were many policies, somersaults, many wrong, obnoxious policies, but the political parties were asleep. They didn't point this out. There were many instances where even this administration had to reverse itself. Would you hear the opposition political parties point out these errors even before they accepted it by themselves?
Well, it depends. It depends on the issues you are talking about. Because for one, for my political party, I will talk about myself and APGA. Starting from when this government took over power, you know, the major policy decision that this government made was the removal of subsidy. We criticized it. We criticized this in terms of, one, we were in agreement that removal of subsidy was long overdue. And it was long overdue, not because subsidy as a regime is in itself bad, but because of the way the previous government had managed the issue of subsidy in such a way that it became a massive corrupt and criminal enterprise that depleted the resources of the country at the detriment of ordinary Nigerians and the masses who were supposed to be the ultimate beneficiaries of this subsidy regime. And we stated clearly that the government of the day ought to have made certain arrangements or put certain measures in place to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. And I did say, if you can Google and see the various interviews and granted on the issue of subsidy, and I did say that Nigerians should not be meant to suffer the brunt of the inefficiency of the government of the day. Because if the government of the day could not protect our borders, could not stop, corrupt people who we are trying as much as possible to smuggle most of these products outside of the shores of the country, then the ordinary person who just needs this petrol or this fuel or any of these petroleum products to just eke out a meaningful or a decent living should not be made to suffer the inefficiency of the government. I did say that. And so then you come to the issue of the electricity. It was part of the criticism of members of the opposition, and that led the government coming out to make some clarifications and say, oh, we divided the countries into bands. We had people in band A, band B, C, D, E, and so be it. But still, we did say that if there are certain measures you put in place, then it means that the major drivers of the economy, which are the small and medium-scale enterprises, you're going to run them out of business. And when you do that, it's going to affect the general economy of the country. And so I think, in fairness to the opposition, I think another issue that affects most opposition parties in terms of trying as much as possible to have their voice. I know 1, 2, 3 political parties may have 1 or 2 leadership issues. And while they're trying as much as possible to sort out the internal wranglings in their party, you may not hear their voice. But then,
and
for us
on that, you had your fair share within APGA, leadership
yes.
tussle, but you have sorted it out.
Yeah, no, well, I may say we've sorted it out. At the same time, you may say maybe they are still there. But when I came in, I adopted a different approach. And the approach is, I said to myself and to my colleagues in the National Working Committee of the party, that we're not going to engage in negative publicity. If we have leadership issues, most times these leadership issues are sorted out in various courts of the land. And so when we have lawyers doing their biddings in the various courts, INEC has their record, and they know who the leaders of a political party or who the leaders of our political party is, who the national officers are. So pending that time, once we enjoy that recognition, we must play our role as leaders of a political party, national officers of a foremost opposition party in Nigeria. Why having lawyers to sort out everything about leadership crisis that may be in court? And so I tried as much as possible to restrain or refrain myself from engaging in any issue or discussing anything surrounding APGA leadership that has lingered for as much as, how long the party has been in existence. And so it's just a matter of approach, as far as I'm concerned. And so the point I'm making is that, yes, you may find some fault in the manner that the opposition party has tried as much as possible to engage the ruling party. But I can't say that the political parties or the opposition parties have not lived up to their bidding.
Okay.
In as much as I believe that we could have done more.
Okay, it's good you made that admission. We'll go for a break now. When we come back, there are issues to deal with, policy options, what APGA would have done if it were in power, and other issues. Do stay. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are taking a look at the state of the nation, especially the roles for the opposition political parties in bringing out the best in the ruling party, the APC. In the last 1 year of the party's hold again onto power after successfully holding it for 8 years. The design of democracy is that opposition, an active opposition party or parties should indeed put the ruling party on its toes to bring out its best, out, leaving them in a world of their own who force them to a situation where they begin to embark on what you may refer to as honest error. Sly Ezeokenwa is the national chairman of All Progressive Grand Alliance APGA. He joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much for staying with us. So what would you have done differently if APGA were to be in power in terms of subsidy removal and floating of the currency? Because in the 2023 presidential election, almost all the political parties and their candidates promised that they would take steps in that particular direction. What the president did. What was the opposition and how would you have done it differently?
Now, for us in APGA, we did state clearly that given the corruption has come to attend the subsidy regime in the country, that it was actually necessary that then the subsidy the subsidy regime either rejigged or removed entirely. One, for us, what would have done different is first, the issue of power has been the major problem bedeviling this country. Right from the time, just like when you said it at the onset of the program, this year marked 25 years of uninterrupted democratic rule in Nigeria. Then you ask yourself, after 25 years, Nigeria still generates just a mega, I think about 5,000 or 6,000 megawatts. Mm-hmm. And then you still hear about the national grid collapsing, every now and then. And you ask yourself, how can you build a robust economy if you can't have a hands-on the power generation in the country. To as their primary source of power, because in most places you hear the issue that there are eight places or areas in the country that may not have up to probably just 6 hours of power supply in a week, not in a day. And there are industries, there are small-scale industries, there are medium-scale industries around these areas. And the question is, how are they going to survive? And Nigerians need an efficient transportation scheme, an efficient transportation system. Now, the next one is the issue of security, because even the train system that the previous government tried to put in place, we've seen issues of vandalization of some of these train tracks. And so it is a convoluted problem as far as I'm concerned. But the question there is that the major issue, the major challenge, the subsidy regime, has been the corruption that attended to it. I said it earlier on. Subsidy in itself is not entirely bad. But in the Nigeria case, the problem is that there are corrupt and criminally minded individuals who have come to take advantage of the subsidy regime. So we hear the issue that when they come in, they import these products, subsidies are paid, and then they smuggle this product outside the country to make additional gain. And so that's why I said it ought not to be that Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians that are benefiting from the subsidy regime, should be made to suffer the brunt of the inefficiency of the government.
You know what? The point you raise is very important, because a lot of critics, analysts have said Nigerian governments successive have rushed to remove subsidy. That what they should have tackled was the corruption within the subsidy. That
absolutely.
The corruption remains, that governments appear to shy away from tackling this corruption headlong. We saw what happened during the Jonathan administration. Some persons were pushed into trial for making false declarations to receive extra billions. So government must up its ante towards that direction.
That's exactly my point. And so you can now have what we call a phased removal of subsidy. Because the major problem with the subsidy when this government took over was the fact that it was unsustainable. In the sense that the government of the day, even the revenue that the government of the Federation was realizing from the sale of crude oil, it's not even enough to pay for subsidy. So you now see either the CBN or the NNPC trying to dip its hand into other sources of revenue, including VAT and other sources of tax, to now pay subsidy. So if we had continued in that regime, it means in the next 1 year or 2 years, the country will be declared bankrupt. And so that point, that's why I said at the point when this government came in power, the amount being paid as subsidy, I think as at the last count in 1 quarter, we're paying about maybe 2, 3 or more trillion naira in 1 quarter. And the question is, what is the budget of the country?
Another,
so how can
another budget,
Yes.
is to determine daily consumption level. Because for a long time, NNPC, the regulators, nobody appears to know our consumption level.
That is the problem. Everything revolves around the corruption that's come to attend to the subsidy regime. In terms of the amount the country was paying, in terms of the sources of the revenue or how the federal government generates the revenue with which it pays the subsidy, in terms of the amount of even what we are consuming as a nation, we are hearing outrageous numbers that we are unsustainable. And so probably the simple thing for the government of the day to have done at that time was to put an end to it. I did give an example in one of my interviews with probably, having someone that has probably what we call a diabetic foot ulcer or gangrene, in the leg. If you leave it that way, level of infection or sepsis that probably has come as a result of such infection, the person will eventually die. At the same time, nobody desires to have his leg amputated. Nobody desires that. And so you're in between the devil and the deep blue sea. You must take a decision. And so it is possible that after an evaluation or re-evaluation of the subsidy regime, in terms of determining the actual number or liters of fuel that the country is consuming daily, in trying as much as possible, or in terms of reducing to the barest minimum. Because like I said, if the government of the day is able to have a hands-on on power generation, such a way that Nigerians can enjoy between 18 to 20 hours of uninterrupted power supply, it can drive down the numbers further down, such that if we are consuming probably 30 or 40 million liters of petrol in a month, if you have 20 hours of uninterrupted.
Okay.
The question is, no matter what you're doing, small and medium-scale industries must survive. And that is the ultimate question.
Okay, you made mention of, we're about a few days from now, it will be June 12th, 25 years of democracy, uninterrupted, never seen in the country before. Considering the problems, the challenges of our democracy today, if you ask me, they are not quite different from what we experienced during the First Republic, during the Second Republic, and it leaves me with this wonder. Are we making true progress? Election, hijack of materials, intimidation of opposition, all this manipulation, are we really making progress? What is that reason that we appear not to have learned from our past experiences?
Well, I would beg to probably take a different view. The country will definitely have made progress, no matter how you see it. For at least, you, my brother, you've been around, in the world for quite some time, and then you can have an assessment, the military regime and the democratic regime that we have, especially in terms of human rights, especially in terms of the protection of the fundamental rights of Nigerians and all whatnot. And there is this aphorism I will always adopt, that the worst democratic regime is always better than the best military regime. There's no doubt about that. But then the question is, 25 years after, how have we fared? Have we made progress? Yes. How meaningful has that progress been? That's where the question is. I believe Nigeria as a country could have done better in terms of so many things. Just like I said, 25 years after, Nigeria still generates just a mega 4, 5, 6,000 megawatts of electricity to power the giant of Africa with over 200 million Nigerians. That is abysmally poor, as far as I'm concerned. What has been the effort of the government at the center from 1999 to date in terms of workers' welfare, in terms of transportation, in terms of education. Every now and then, we still see the academic staff union of universities and the non-academic staff backing on strike over the funding of universities. What have been, the effort of the government that has held on to power in terms of improving the tide of education, in terms of improving our healthcare facilities and so many things. What we are seeing is the order of the day has been so many Nigerians leaving the shores of the country to seek for better alternative outside the shores of this country. These and many more are the issues. And that's why I say that we could have done better as a country.
Yes,
now,
a good point. A good point you have made. A good point.
Yes.
I realize that indeed we are perhaps still learning the ropes, still trying to deal with the teething problems, and that we will improve based on our experience. But thinking of quality of our electoral process, South Africa recently held an election, trouble-free.
Yes.
Within a day after, results trickled in, and we knew who won, who lost. Almost everybody accepting the outcome. In terms of quality of the election, is our speed at that desirable pace?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's the point I'm still making. Are we at that desired state? No. Have we made progress? Oh, yes. That is the problem. Are we at the desired state? No. Or have we made progress? Yes.
How do we make quick progress?
And can we do better? Let me give you an example. I'm one of those. I believe that the 2023 election, despite the inability of the Electoral Commission to transmit results electronically to the IREF, have done a lot better. If you have an analysis of the 2011 general election, the 2015, the 2019, and the 2023, and the role the technology played, especially the bimodal voter accreditation system INEC introduced, you would have seen a whole lot of difference and a whole lot of progress that the Commission has made. Now, the only problem, or what I saw was a major problem with the 2023 general election, was the issue of trust, in the sense that the Electoral Commission came out to make an emphatic statement that they were going to do A, B, C, D, E. And then when you fail to do that, the issue of mistrust comes to play. But for someone like me, as a lawyer, and someone who has been an active player in the electoral or post-litigation processes, we know how to calculate whether something has gone wrong or not. And we know the process of probably after the post-election processes in terms of declaration of results at the various polling units and the transfer of the scores of candidates from the lowest cadre at the various polling units to the ward, the local government, the state, and ultimately at the national level. And so, for me, it's not a blanket condemnation of the Electoral Commission. The Commission has done so well. We no longer see those outrageous numbers we see from some states because the Act made it clear that if so and so voter, we cannot authenticate him bimodally, either by probably his fingerprint or by his facial recognition, that such a person cannot vote. And then we saw that in places where we used to see, probably there are some states when the election results are being trickled in or being collected, you see a state posting about 1-point-something million votes, 2-point-something million votes. Meanwhile, in 2022 election, most of the states could not even do up to 1 million votes. And so that is progress, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Then the next question is, what can the Commission do? What the Commission ought to now do is to deepen this progress, is to ensure the integrity of the electoral process. By any means, they can do that. Because I keep saying it, the greatest way or the best way you can solve the problem of democracy in Nigeria is by having an electoral process that is credible and efficient in such a way that the leaders or people who are elected into office know very well that they are accountable to the people. And that if, for example, you fail to perform or you fail to live up or you fail to fulfill your campaign promises, that you're going to go back to these same electorate in the next 4 years, face them, and actually present your scorecard. And it will be left for them to assess and reward you and reward you efficiently in terms of whether you are going back or whether you are going to.
I agree with you.
So,
I agree with you in terms of progress made. The numbers in terms of voter turnout and valid vote cast. For the first time, we saw about 7, 8 governors lose senatorial election. It's unprecedented. We also saw
nobody is asking those questions.
why it happened.
National Assembly.
Yes.
In the National Assembly, we are now seeing about 6 political parties.
And the sum of the membership of
we have the Labour.
The sum of the membership of all these parties in the House of Reps at the initial stage outweighed that of the ruling party. That's progress. But we also saw an unprecedented record judicial challenge of the outcome of the election.
Yes.
In terms of election petition cases, the highest since 1999.
I can tell you, and that's where the issue of trust comes in. That's where the issue of trust comes in. Now, there is something you are not checking. While we have, at the last, one of the consultative meetings we had with the Electoral Commission, I'm not holding brief for the commission, but then there was a record that the chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, explained to the political parties. It's unprecedented. While you had an unimaginable number of persons challenging that process, the next question, how many of those outrageous numbers succeeded? So, in terms of the actual success at the end of the day, from the tribunal to the Court of Appeal, and even for governorship that gets up to the Supreme Court, less than 1% actually succeeded at the various courts. And that is the least in the history of the country. And so while you're talking about the numbers, of course, everybody knows that access to court is a constitutional matter. Every citizen of the country that has any grievance, one grievance or the other, has unrestricted and unlimited access to court.
I get your point. I get your point, and it's important.
So why you're talking about,
Chairman, it's important, if you allow me, it's important you brought this out. Number of litigations and number of successful litigation, perhaps it gives us a clearer picture about how frivolous those cases were.
And that's why I said, I am not holding forth for the commission, but those numbers must be taken into consideration. I am not one that is given to just criticism.
But you know,
just because I'm a member
you talked of trust. You spoke of trust. How important trust is built in the process. If it is not built, it raises issues and questions of credibility.
That is just the point. It was the issue of trust that led to those high numbers you talked about.
Okay, as we close, we don't have much time. Let's talk of APGA in 1 minute, if we can succeed in doing that. APGA has been a one-state party for a long time. This APGA, they get belay, does it not give birth? Does it not expand? What's the reason behind that?
You see, the problem for us has been the approach of the previous leaders of the party in trying as much as possible to deepen the party and expand the reach of the party across the 36 states of the country. When I came into office as a national chairman just a year ago, and incidentally, I must equally say, while President Tinubu and the APC government are celebrating their 1 year in office, I was equally 1 year as the national chairman just on the 31st of May, 2024. Now, the problem, like I said, when I came in, the first thing I did, because I'm someone that has risen to the top through the ranks of the party at various levels. I started off as a member of the legal team of the party, became a state legal advisor in my state, subsequently became the national legal advisor, and today the national chairman. And for me, I know the challenges and the issues the party is facing. And that's why when we came on board, we did develop or adopt an acronym which I call the DRIVE. And in that DRIVE, I mean, when I say DRIVE, I mean DRIVE.
Okay.
It was just the initial letters of 5 words that I brought together.
So we are going to see an expanded APGA because we're out of time.
So just in less than 30 seconds. D stands for discipline. R stands for rebranding. We are trying to rebrand and reposition APGA as a political party for young persons in Nigeria.
Okay.
And we're trying as much as possible to leverage on the increased political awareness and participation among young persons in the 2023 election. And I stand for an inclusive leadership. V stands for visibility in terms of making the party visible, in terms of trying as much as possible. And that's
okay.
let's see. I answered you.
Let's see how this thing will play out in subsequent election. The taste of the pudding is in the eating.
I must commend you and the media. You are the greatest partner we have.
Thank you so much
in achieving our dry printing.
Thank you,
because
Chairman.
the media plays an important
We'll have
role
to
as
go
much
now.
as possible.